How's it going, everybody? Hope everyone is doing well. There was a question that came in as a comment on my latest Tech Support Thursday video, and the question basically is, let me go just pull it over here real quick just so that it's visible. The question is, hey Rob, I would want to ask, what would you recommend the home lab equipment list and their specifications for the one who is starting to deal with home labs? Okay, great question. So you guys can ignore the topology in the background. I'm not talking about that. That's for some server spreader stuff that I'm working on. But um, so I want to talk a little bit about like the evolution, if you will, of a building out a lab. So I do not recommend out of the gate somebody go out, especially if they're like start brand new, like you are just getting started and you want to get into things and start, labbing something out, or you're watching a video. And if you're like me and you're watching a video and you're taking some notes on it, that's only going to take you so far, right? It's like you can see it, but you can't touch it kind of deal. And you can apply that to whatever type of thing you want. Use your imagination. So it's window shopping is what I refer to it as. So you can see it, you understand it, all that good stuff, but you can't touch it. So how do you touch it? How do you put your hands on something? Well, the first way to do that is with, especially if it's networking. That's what I do. So I'm going to talk about the things that I personally have experience with. The first one is going to be Cisco Packet Tracer. So actually, let me see here if I can't pull up. Let me do this. Yes, I'm going to go incognito. So, because y'all don't need to see my search history. So, Cisco Packet Tracer. This is the first thing that I would definitely recommend anyone that's just getting started. So if you're not familiar with Packet Tracer, follow this link right here. Google Cisco Packet Tracer. Go to this link right here. You will have to log in. I think there's a way to get started with it. All that type of stuff. It is a download for free type of thing. So, and it gives you a simulation software. Literally, that's what it is. It simulates networks. And the cool thing about it is that when you get started with it, it's like this thing right here. I'll go ahead and just do some images real quick. There's all kinds of people that are taking and building out these networks into Packet Tracer, and they're developing these networks so that they can play with them. So now it's a simulator. There are limitations to what you can and can't do with networks inside a Packet Tracer, but it will give you the flexibility of playing around with the capability, the actual clicking, adding devices and connecting cables, drawing a cable from one device to another, making sure you get the right cable type, then going through configuring all the things that you need to configure, so on and so forth. There's a lot you can do with it. I've worked with it quite extensively, so I'm rather, now granted, I haven't used it in a very, very long time for the simple reason that it's not good enough for me. Am I a little bit special? Yes. My needs for networking go far beyond what Packet Tracer will ever be able to support. So therefore, I have to use other tools. Now, this is great for somebody that's studying for their CCNA. If you're Network Plus, CCNA, anything Cisco related that you're looking to dive into. Now, granted, Network Plus is more vendor agnostic and gives you some flexibility there, but it's also wider in respects to CCNA. So if you are going to take, I don't have a Network Plus. Back when I started out, Cisco was being like drilled into me. This is back in 2010. So it was one of those things where late 09, early 2010. So for me, Cisco has always been the forefront. Network Plus was out there. I already had the A Plus, and I didn't want to be. I said A Plus got me my footstep for where I started out. So I passed A Plus hardware and software. Once I passed that, then I graduated, if you will, into networking. I didn't really want to be a sysadmin. That wasn't my thing. I wanted to be a network guy. I knew that as soon as I got started. So once I got A plus out of the gate, and I'm not saying you have to do it or follow my footsteps exactly, but that's what I did. So I did that. It gave me a foot in the door to help desk. I knew how to work on computers and stuff like that, and I took whatever I could get that paid well enough to where I could afford to pay my bills. Now this is a long time ago, 15 years ago, so that's one of those things where I did what I had to do at the time. Now fast forward, let's say 2 years, right? I've got my CCENT certification, which is no longer out there. You can't get it. I've got my A plus certification. You can't get Net Plus. Net Plus is a wider topic diversification. Sure, it's a wider topic scope than CCNA is. CCNA obviously will help you get your foot in the door in the networking. So you go through all those things. So I would, if I was you, Net Plus is good to learn, but don't waste your time taking the test. CCNA is worth learning because there's a lot of overlap. If you learn one, you're going to be learning both. Get your do the CCNA. That's my opinion on the thing. So if you want to be a network guy or gal, that's what you do. You get your CCNA, and then once you're at CCNA and you have that, then you can broaden your horizons. If you want to be a voice person, great, go collaboration. If you want to be a wireless person and make RF waves do the thing in the air, be my guest. So that's where, depending on which track you want to go, if you were, you're like, well, I want to go cloud. Okay, great. Then go pick one of the big three: AWS, Azure, and GCP. Now, granted, IBM is out there and they're starting to grow, but in my experience, most customers that I work with, they are either AWS, Azure, and very few are in Google. But anyway, I digress. So if you do what most people do, what do? They are going to go CCNA, then they're going to move directly up laterally, which is CCNP. And real quick, let me go ahead and take you out to Cisco's website, and we're going to come down here to certifications, and we're going to go to, where is it? If I come down here, you can go, where is it? Browse certifications right here. So you're going to go here, you're going to come down, and you have your certification list, right? You've got your, no thank you, I'm good, ENNA, Enterprise Network Assurance. Okay, that's cool, I guess. So you got your track, right? Collaboration, cyber ops, data, DevNet, design, enterprise, yada yada yada. You get the point. Then you have your evolution is going from left to right. Obviously you can do entry is going to be CCST, which basically replaces the CCENT, the ICND1. So if you're just getting started with networking and you want to dive into it, this would probably be the first one you'd want to grab and then go after CCNA. That would just be my evolution to it. Pardon me. That would be the evolution that you would want to go through. Now, let's say you're at a CCNA and you want to go out, you want to get your CCNP. Great. Packet Tracer is not going to do the job for you anymore. So then, in my opinion, you have one of two different choices. You technically have three, but I'm going to lay out the two that I think are more valuable. Number one, physical lab. Physical lab, in my opinion, is always going to be good. Where you go out, and I leverage eBay. So let's go over here to ebay.com. All right, so we're here on eBay. What do you look for on eBay? Well, the one thing that no emulation software has really ever been able to do really, really well is switching. You're going to need to learn layer 2 networking. So we're going to type in here Cisco switch. Simple as that, right? Now you're going to get a whole lot of different things that are going to pop up. Now, if you want to be more specific, be my guest. So if I was to come in here, and let's say we go out and we get a 2960, something that's older, that's going to be really, really affordable. Now, what I would do is I would say, find something that's in your price range. Now, I live in the U.S. I know people don't live in the U.S. and then they have to deal with all of that. I can only tell you what I know how to deal with. So that's going to be the direction I go with. So let's say, for example, here, you got the 2960 switch. So you'd have to go, the first thing you'd have to go do is you'd have to go reference the device model number to figure out what the capabilities are for it. Can it support routing? Can it support switching? What capabilities does it support? And so you're going to have to do a little bit of research. This is what's going to turn you into more of a sales engineer. You're going to understand the product first. Once you understand how the product works, what its capabilities are from a physical perspective, then, right, physical capabilities first, then you lay on top of that the logical capabilities. What does it do from a VLAN, switching, spanning tree, all ether channels, all those type of things that you add on top of it. Those are value adds. So that's what I would do. So you go do this, and once you have that understood, you're in good shape. That means that you can take that, and that's going to be transferable no matter where you go. Now, this is a $39.99 switch. It says last one. Who knows if that's true? Not really my problem. So you would go through and you would go buy the switch. It's free shipping to wherever you might be. I'm assuming US based. So that's what I would go do. That's the number one thing, is physical hardware. Nothing will ever beat putting your hands on physical equipment. Now, once you get past layer 2 networking, and the reason I started off there is because whether you go the next two options, and I'm always going to be a proponent of EVE-NG. So let's go to EVE-NG. Actually, no, I take that back. Let's take a step back. I haven't used it in a while, but the other option here is GNS3. So we'll do GNS3.net. Actually, surprised it's still, I think it's GNS3.net. That's not working. So we'll type in GNS3. GNS3.com, excuse me. It used to be .net, I believe. All right, so we're here on GNS3. What you can do with GNS3 is you can actually install it on your computer directly. At least you used to be able to. Now, please understand that my experience with GNS3 is probably 6 years, 7 years removed, right? I haven't used it in forever, but when I used to use it, I used to be able to install it directly on my computer, and I had to go find the Dynamips images in order to run on it. I don't know if any of that's true anymore. I haven't used it in so long that I don't know. So that's going to be the next step in your process. If short of you going out and buying a dedicated server or going out and buying network equipment. Now, I'll be honest with you. Yes, it's great having a switch on hand. It's great having a router on hand. It's also like over here, if we type in Cisco router 1921. Okay, that's a fairly cheap router. You get a few of these physically in your home. You'll be able to wire them up to power, cable them. You'll be able to do dynamic routing on it if you want to do so. Another great option. If you want to do wireless, come over here and do Cisco wireless controller. And you'll be able to get one of these guys, a little 3504. Just make sure that, actually, I have the 2504. I don't know. Yeah, this is the one I have right here with the 5 AP license. I think I paid like $50 for it. So you can connect it to your network, and then you can connect your access points to the wireless controller, and then you can deploy Wi-Fi in your home network. A physical Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi you can't emulate in software. Just can't do that. Anyway, so that's another option. So you have the ability of doing it physically first if you want to. I would always recommend that for those that are just getting started, to get your hands on the physical equipment, to play with it and understand what to do. Now, if you need to do that, great, by all means. Now, GNS3, as far as I know, the last time I played with this is probably 6-7 years ago. And, I mean, there's plenty of YouTube videos on my channel of me playing around in GNS3 and showing you guys how to do stuff. So, if you want to go download it, I'll click on the free download for Windows. So you can still install it on Windows. How you would actually get anything into it anymore, I don't know. It's been so long, I don't remember. So you'd have to go look at the documentation and all that type of stuff in order to figure out how to follow the getting started with it, the GNS3 VM, all that type of stuff. I really don't know. But this is actually a really good example of what you can do with it. You can go through here and do a lot of cool stuff. In here, it looks like what they're doing is you're taking the Cisco Modeling Labs operating systems, the IOSB L2, and they're importing it into GNS3. So that's the next thing I'm going to show you. So here's the caveat with this one. This one's going to cost you money. GNS3, I think, is still, I believe, is free to download. Let me go back one here. I'm not going to download. Yeah, it looks like it's free to download, which is awesome. And so you can do that. Now, the one thing that GNS3 is open source free software. They're right there. If I would have just read the opening line, there you go. So there's that. Now, one thing that you're going to have to consider if you want to go beyond this is I'm going to take you over here to, we're going to Google it. We're going to say Cisco Modeling Labs. And I'm going to click the first link here. This guy right here. So you can design, troubleshoot, and learn. Now, this is designed to be installed on a server. Now, with GNS3, you can go, say, it's $200. So that, and it ships with 20 Cisco nodes. It has all the operating systems you need already with it. So I don't know if it's going to let me see what is actually there. It doesn't. Maybe it will. Personal. Let's go here. What are my options here? Does it tell me what it supports? It tells, so okay, right here. It says on your skills on your own lab with authorized Cisco software, including iOS, iOS XRV, Nexus, all that good stuff, which is great for doing things like CCNA. But they even say that you probably should need more with CCNP. So I would go through and get this. And what this gives you right here is it allows you to buy the operating systems, is essentially what you're doing. The way that it does that, and I'm going to see if I can't find the, whoops, that is not for you to see. 1 second here. I'll see if I can't find, is it CML? Yes, right here. So this is an older version of CML from a couple of years ago, back when I still used it, when I needed it. So you got this reference platform, you get this operating system. So this image here, I'm not going to open it. Well, I mean, I probably could. If I was to right click here and go to open with, let's go show more options, and let's go to 7-zip. We're going to say open archive. And we go in here to viral base images. Here are all the operating systems. So if I want to go in here and I want to use iOS VL2, guess what? I can. It's going to go ahead and allow me to download. I can take all of these images, and if I double click on these, they are QCOW2 files. So what this basically does is I can use this with CML, or I can use it with EVE-NG. So I pay the $200 a year for the CML access that allows me to download that, and then once I have it downloaded, I can export these, and then I can go over and use this with EVE-NG. Now here is the big caveat with EVE-NG. This is where you step out of the realm of GNS3. So you can take the things that the operating systems that you're getting out of CML, and you can import them into GNS3 and do what this guy's doing right here. You can totally do this. This is what GNS3 looks like. And you can build out your network and get everything like that going. More power to you if you want to do that. That's fine. Now, that's gonna, if you have a computer that can support these capabilities, this would be great for layer 2 learning. It's going to teach you how to do a lot of stuff. It's not as good for things that are more advanced, like you're going to do layer 2 security, DHCP snooping, dynamic ARP inspection, IP source guard, things like that. You're going to need physical hardware for. So that's why I said it might not be such a bad idea for you to take, say, $200 and go out on eBay and download, 2 or 3 switches, just so you guys can build a triangle out of some switches, and then grab a couple of routers and simulate them as hosts and connect them to the network and make one router your DHCP server, the other one your DHCP client, and then play around with DHCP snooping if you want to learn how that works. That's a great way to do it on hardware. So here I just showed you how to fix something right there and how to build it out of a lab. So that's going to be the platforms, right? So now EVE-NG can be taken a step, can be used, and that's what I personally use, and I have been using that for years now. The benefit to that is that when you start leveraging that you need a dedicated server. Now, how do you define a server? Well, there's all kinds of things to take into consideration when you look at servers. So I have been a big fan of Dell. So I have the Dell R810. This is what I have. Let's see, can I find the one that I've got? E5? No, I've got E7. So I've got the E7 4820. I don't know if it's going to have that particular version available, but I have this one here with the 4x4 10-core processor. So you get so this is basically the server that I have, right? And I think it came from there. Yep, this is where I bought it from too. So this is the server that I have. One of two. I've got two of them just like this. And one's got 512 gigs of RAM. The other one's got 256. So when you see me doing all my really big labs like Enterprise and things like that, I install Eve Bare Metal on this server right here and Eve Pro, and it works out great. And I'm able to scale that as big as you want. That's the cool thing about it. So that's what gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of the day-to-day that I'm able to do. Now, that's one option for you. So if you don't have $500 in a dedicated server I understand. Can you get a tower? Sure. What specs do you need? What you really need is you need to have a server that is going to have enough memory, so enough RAM on it to support as many devices as you want to run. So I always recommend starting off with at least 64. If you can get 128, great, go get it. So let's look at it from this perspective. Let's look at something a little bit smaller. Let's look at a 610. So here we have a Dell, it's a 1U server. And right here, this one's an R610, 2.53 gigahertz, 96 gigabytes of RAM, Intel Xeon 5630 rack mountable server. Okay, so $200. That's a relatively reasonable price. Now, if we come down here, we want to look at the specs. So this is telling us we have a Xeon E6530, and so we have 2.53 gigahertz. Number of processors is 2. Okay, so how do you know what specific way to look for? How do you know this is a good deal? Well, 96 gigs of RAM is pretty good out of the gate, and you get 2 procs, right? So what I would do is I would take this, and we're going to go over here to Google, and we're going to plug this in. And the first thing I'm going to look for right here is the Intel Arc, the Intel Xeon processor. This is going to be the archives. I'm going to click on this guy, and this is going to be total of 4 cores, 8 threads, 2.53 gigahertz per second. And so the way you would want to figure this out is actually, and you want to scroll down to the bottom here, and what you're looking for here is this, which one is it? VTX right here. The Intel Virtualization Technology VT-X, yes. This means you can virtualize on it, which means you could run a virtual machine on it and do nested virtualization if you wanted to. We'll talk about that. That's what EVE-NG is nested virtualization if you run it as a virtual machine. So you've got that. Now, there's other pieces to this to take into consideration. So you want to figure out how much capacity will it have? Well, the simple way to figure that out is you got 4 cores, right? So you take the total number of cores, multiply that by the processor base frequency. So if you got 2 sockets, okay, so let me go grab my calculator here because math is not my strong suit. So we got 2 cores, or I'm sorry, 2 sockets, which means you got 2 physical CPUs. 2 physical CPUs automatically means you're going to have a total of 8 cores. So you're going to have 8 cores times 2.53 gigahertz, 2.53, and that's how many gigahertz of compute you're going to have. So 20.24. Not bad. For $200, that's not bad. How big of a topology can you run? Well, if you're going to use the iOS V router, which is a really lightweight image, and you're going to use iOS BL2, you could probably run 20 nodes out of the gate and build yourself a sizable CCNP lab if that's what you want to go do. I think you could totally make that happen. So that's one of those things where you take into consideration what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Now, the other thing to keep in the back of your mind here, let's go back over to this guy. Here's the R810 with E54860. So I'm going to grab this number here, and I'm going to plug that one in. I'm going to go to the ARC, see what this guy says. This guy here is 10 cores at 2.26. And we're looking at, we should have 4 sockets. Yeah, 4. 4 by, right there. That's what you're looking at. So you got 10 core. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, and we're going to do what? We're going to say this particular server is going to be, let's go back over here to, is this the one? No, that's this one. We want to go back over here. We're going to say we got 4 sockets at 10 cores each. So 10, 20, 30, 40. So we got 40 cores. So we're going to do 40 times and then 2.26. 90.4 gigahertz of compute. CPU power. And then this is also, that particular server had 256 gigs of RAM. So as you can see with those servers and things like that, you're able to get a lot of capability. Now those are my bigger servers. So but the direction I've decided to start going is installing Eve bare metal so that I get better resource utilization and things like that. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 servers in my basement. And you might ask, why do you need 6 servers, Rob? Well, the simple answer to that question is, at the time, it was needed because of the fact of the type of work that I was doing. So, short answer is, it's just one of those things where, as time would go on, I'd have older servers, and I've taken out all the really old Cisco C220s that I had that were really, really old, E5s, and putting me in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 gigahertz of compute just wasn't enough for what I was trying to do. And a lot of it came down 3, 4, 5 years ago when I was really getting into Nexus 9Ks and understanding VXLAN and things like that. I realized very quickly that running Eve as a virtual machine inside of ESXi wasn't going to do the trick, which brings me to my next topic of discussion. So the big thing that I focused on at that point in time was, so actually let me pause there for a second. Go back to when I talked about how you would do Packet Tracer and then GNS3. Well, there was a point in time when GNS3 I would do a lot with it for studying for my CCIE, and then GNS3 had some limitations with the operating system supported. So the CCIE lab had a lot of topics on it that were not supported on the routers that I was working with. So at the time I was using INE for a lot of their route switch CCIE training, and one of the things that I learned was about the CSR1000V, running that inside of ESXi as a virtual machine. So, and you guys saw me talk about how all that type of stuff worked. So I'm not going to get into that specifically, but there's nothing that says you couldn't buy a server and then install ESXi on it and then run virtual machines inside of it if you had the ability to do that. So the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is going to be the VMware evaluation experience. So eval experience, this is what I wanted to do. So VMUG, the VMware Users Group. I subscribe to this yearly, and what it does is it gives me an ability to play around with basically anything VMware. So you can play around with basically the entire VMware suite, networking and security, so NSX DC, vRealize Network Insight, or Verni. You can play around with ALB, or what are they calling it now? Yeah, the Advanced Load Balancer. It used to be called something else, and I can't remember the name. vSAN, SRM, and a bunch of other stuff that goes along with that. Horizon, so on and so forth. So the cool thing about this is that it allows you to download and install for a year. So you don't have to sit there and play around with the evaluation version. You can simply buy I think it's like $200 a year. So purchase VMUG Advantage. Next. That's not what I wanted to do. Store. Is this where I want to go? Yeah, so it's okay. VMUG. Well, it's a group. Um, I'd have to go look at specifics for it, but I think it was $200 a year. It might have gone up a little bit. That's okay though. So the cool thing is you get this, and you couple that with your server that you're going to buy off of eBay or wherever you're going to buy it. You might get a server from work. That you're able to build out your own home lab data center. That's essentially what I did. So you go out there, you do that, and then once you've done that, then you'll be able to do things with VMware if you wanted to. So that's actually what sparked my interest in dealing with VMware products, is being able to play with VMUG and getting all that type of stuff. So you go through, you do those steps, and then you can deploy virtual machines on top of that, which it's going to look something like this. So I'll just log in here real quick. This is refresh it. This is a Cisco C240M5, and I am running gold processors. So they're gold 6152, and I purposely bought this server because of the fact that I wanted to be able to run ES6i8, I wanted to be able to run NSX4, and I was doing a lot of customer work at the time for it, and I needed the horsepower, and that's exactly what I did. So I was doing a lot of customer work at the time. I think this server cost me $1,500, and then it came with 128 gigs of RAM, and so 128, and I bumped that up to, I added 256 gigs to it, which put me at 384, and I've got plenty of hard drive space on it. I put in like a couple huge hard drives in it, so that's essentially what I ended up doing. Now the benefit to that is it gives me a lot of flexibility. It allows me to play around with these tools. Now let me take you over here to eveng.net. And so this is what I personally use. So I've got a mix of doing Eve Pro and Eve Community. If I need to be monkeying around with moving cables around and stuff like that, I do a lot with that with Eve Pro. Eve Pro does give you a lot of more flexibility than Eve Community does. So if you're wanting to pay the whatever it is, 180 or something like that it costs for a license, by all means go for it. So, but I happen to like this a lot. It gives you a lot of flexibility that you wouldn't get from other platforms, in my opinion. Now, I don't mess with GNS3, so if you're one of those GNS3 fanboys and you're like, well, GNS3 can do that too, so can CML. Great. Be my guest. Don't like blow up the comment section and like get triggered because I said something. To each their own. If you have a way of doing something and you like it, go for it. I'll be happy for you. At the end of the day, I don't do anything on this channel that isn't meant to try to help somebody, right? I try to answer questions and point people in the right way and stuff like that because, well, let's be real. If someone like me that does have experience building out labs, and I've not just personal labs, I've actually designed, developed, architected, deployed, optimized, and upgraded several different customers that I've worked with, their own labs because of what they're trying to build. You know, I've built out POCs and helped customers with that. So it gives them a lot of flexibility in terms of capabilities and things like that. So if you can, in my opinion, the more time you spend labbing something up and you build it from scratch, the better of an architect you're going to be because you're going to understand the entire stack of how to build it out. So that's where my opinion sits. And if you disagree with that, all right, pound sand, go somewhere else. So I am running multiple versions of EVENG right now for a lot of the service provider stuff that I'm going over. So that is, this topology right here is an example of one of the things that I'm working on right now for, service provider and stuff like that. So the workbook is coming along. I'm actually enjoying getting into it. So but it's one of those things where this is an Eve OVA, so this is Eve as a virtual machine on that UCS box, that ESXi Outlook or that I just showed you a minute ago. So these SP Workbook 1, 2, and 3. This is one virtual machine. This is another. This is another. So again, I'm monkeying around with stuff so that I can test out different technologies and I won't say relearn, but refresh my memory on some things. So some pretty cool stuff when it comes down to what you can build with if you have the right base platforms to work with. So I am a big proponent on go out and buy yourself a server, go out and spend. I recorded a video a while back called "If you spend $1,000 investment could net you $100,000 a year income," and the base point of that was go buy yourself a server off of eBay for $500. Go buy CML access. Go buy VMUG access. Once you have all three of those, and if you want to go buy EVE-NG access, so you might be a little over $1,000 now. You might be $1,100-$1,200. You go buy all four of those things: the server, Eve, CML, and VMUG. You download all those capabilities. You install it. You learn how to build out a server. These are capabilities and skills that they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're invaluable, right? Because you can take that anywhere you go, right? So you take what you've ordered, you put it together, and you start building out your own labs, right? And that's what makes, in my opinion, that's what makes good engineers good engineers. So by playing around with the technology, digging into it, understanding how it works. So if that's what you want to do, be my guest. More power to you. Happy for you. If you got any questions, drop it in the comment section below. If you haven't already done so, please like, share, and subscribe. I will drop the workbook link, both the demo version, in case you want to see the workbook for the enterprise workbook before you buy it. And if you want to buy the workbook, there will be a link in the description. Yes, I am trying to push that because it was a lot of work, and I'm having some pretty good success with it. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, drop it in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe. The link for the demo workbook and the workbook itself will be in the description. And you guys have an awesome weekend. I am going to, as soon as I'm done with work, I'm going to be banging on the keyboard for a few hours, trying to get some other stuff done and, make my way through the service provider blueprint and things like that. If you hadn't already detected, I'm kind of working on another track. But, I need something to sink my teeth into. I need something to work on. So, also working on CCDE at the moment. So, content will be coming soon, but just be patient. So, with that being said, if you guys have anything else, you know where to find me. Have a good one, guys.